Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1110A, and today's date is October 25th, 2016, and the title of the episode is Shadow Banking is Back, and this time, there is no hope. Now, before I get started here, I just want to make an announcement. I placed an interview with Rob Kirby on the X22 Report Spotlight YouTube channel. So all you need to do is go to YouTube, type in X22 Report Spotlight, and you'll see the video there. Or you can go to x22report.com, scroll down a little bit, look over to your right-hand side, you'll see the video there. Or you can go to newssentinel.com, same thing, scroll down a little bit, look over to your right-hand side, and you can play the video there. Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now, in the last couple of weeks leading up to the elections, we've seen the stock market really go absolutely nowhere. It's been bouncing around, but staying pretty steady. We haven't seen huge declines or huge upswings. We do see gold is up today by $10 or so. And we can see right now they're just trying to keep everything steady for the elections. They don't want anything out of the ordinary. But when we look at the economy, it doesn't mean that things are okay. It doesn't mean that, oh, the collapse has stopped, the stock market is fine. All that means is they have the plunge protection team running overtime, keeping the market steady. But when we look at consumer confidence right now, and it's showing up in the conference board, and we know the conference board is controlled by the government. They give them grant, they give them money, and they fund them. Now, the conference board, Bloomberg, and UMich, well, they're all in agreement. The consumer confidence index for all of these, they are declining right now. And we can see that the consumer confidence index declined year on year from 104.1 to 98.6, because people are becoming aware that there's something wrong in the economy. Something is going on. It makes no sense. There are corporations that are laying off and continually laying off. And these individuals are having a very difficult time trying to find work. We know that Twitter right now is laying off about 8% of its workforce. That's about 300 people. They did this a year ago. And we can see right now that the situation is deteriorating very, very quickly. Now, when we look at credit cards, most people survive on credit cards. They use them to pay their bills. They use them to go shopping because they don't have cash on hand. They don't make enough out in the world to have the cash. Now, this is not just a few select people. There are many people out there that are surviving on credit because the amount that they're bringing in is just not enough to support them. And this is coming out of the Wall Street Journal. And it points out that delinquency rates of subprime credit, well, they have surged to the highest levels since 2012. Because what's happening is, as people lose their jobs, they're getting maybe a part-time or two part-time jobs. Maybe they can't even find a job. And what happens is you can't make the payments on your credit cards. It becomes very, very difficult. And we also have to remember the credit cards have been sending out applications to the subprime borrowers because they need to spread debt. That's what the central banking system is all about. And we see right now things are starting to backfire on continually spreading debt out into the world, debt onto the people, because the people just don't have the funds to come up with paying these high payments on credit cards. And some of them are 19%, 20%, some are all the way, some are as high as 30%. And we can see right now is that the volume of subprime card issuance is up 20% year over year in 2015, and it is up 56% compared to 2013. And we can see right now that the situation in credit card delinquencies, auto loan delinquencies, well, they're on the rise. Now, Case-Shiller came out with their home price index, and they are reporting, because we have to remember they look at 20 different cities, and it's much easier for the central bank to manipulate the prices in these cities. Now, the rest of the country they don't care about, because no one hears about what's happening in other places. But when you look around, you can see that people have their houses on the market and they're continually dropping their prices. They can't sell them. But in these 20 cities, they have the ability to manipulate the market in that area, because the banks are able to keep homes off the market. They have hedge funds, investment companies come in, they purchase tracts and tracts of homes. They rent them if they can, but they keep them off the market. And this allows home prices to move up. And right now what they're saying is that the home prices have recovered all their losses and are back at the highest level since June of 2006. All 20 cities saw home prices rise year over year. So we are back in the same exact spot that we were in 2006, which means this bubble is going to pop, and it is going to be a disaster. And when we look at the housing industry, what do we see? Well, the U.S. housing market has ballooned to $26 trillion. In many markets, prices exceed even the peak or the prior bubble that blew up so spectacularly back in 2008. And we can see that this whole thing is weighed down by $14 trillion in mortgage debt, or about 76% of U.S. GDP. Of that, $10 trillion is owed on 1 to 4 family residents. The numbers are big and they matter. But the question is, who is lending? Is it the banks? Well, no, it's non-banks. They're called shadow banks. They have now overtaken commercial banks to grab a slice of mortgages. And what they're doing is they're taking a slice of the government guaranteed mortgages. They are giving these mortgages to subprime people, anyone they possibly can, just like they did prior to 2008. Once they do this, they sell them off. And we can see right now this is a problem, and we're heading down the same exact path that we did back in 2008. Now, we can see that there are a lot of non-banks. These are the shadow banks. And they have been writing loans like crazy. Non-bank Quicken Loans, they have about 18,000 originations. Caliber Home Loans, they have about 13,000 originations. Then we have Bank of America, Fairway Independent Mortgage, JP Morgan Chase, Movement Mortgage, Prime Lending, Guaranteed Rate, and Guild Mortgage. Of these top 10 originators, shadow banks originated 63% of the mortgages. And we can see they're going as strong as they possibly can into the mortgage arena, and they're going after the riskier borrowers. And these are the government guaranteed no down payment or low down payment mortgages. And then again, they wrap them up, they sell them off. This is going to be a complete disaster in the real estate market. This is a repeat of what happened in 2006, 2007, leading up to 2008, 2009, where everything completely fell apart. And we can see we're headed in that direction once again. And this time, there's no hope. No one's going to bail out these banks. They're going to bail in, because the losses are going to be huge. And prices are going to drop like you've never seen before. The housing market is going to be a complete disaster. Actually, Caterpillar is out there, and we talked about Caterpillar yesterday, and they're saying that there's economic weakness throughout much of the world, and they don't see anything improving anytime soon. Well, after 49 months or so, they haven't seen any improvements, and we can see right now things are definitely getting worse. The Baltic Dry Index, it has dropped to 813 points. It's down another 18 points, and it looks like it's dropping pretty fast here. And we see Wells Fargo, where they misled the public. They opened up many, many accounts, and people are looking at this and saying, you know something, I don't want to bank with Wells Fargo right now. And 14% of those that were polled who were Wells Fargo customers, they decided to leave the bank. They're closing their accounts, taking their currency, and going someplace else. And we can see right now that the banking system is completely insolvent. We understand that the stress test is a propaganda piece where they use it to convince everyone that everything is fine, and we know it is not. And the governments will no longer bail out these banks. So we have the economic system completely contracting at a rate that we've never seen before, even worse than 2008. And when things start to speed up, it's going to be a complete disaster. And things are going to hit the bottom very, very hard. And the only thing that the central banks will be able to do is print more currency, or electronically create the currency. And what will that help? Will that create jobs? No. They're just going to do that to prop up the banks. And to prop up the corporations, they're going to need the ability to purchase stocks. So it looks like we are headed towards this phase one of the collapse, which we've been talking about. And the time period is getting closer and closer because the central banks, they're not prepared for a black swan. When something comes out of left or right field that they didn't expect, they're not prepared for that, and the entire economy would be a disaster. It would just completely fall apart, and everyone would point their finger at the central bank. This is why the central bank is looking to have a controlled demolition of the economy. They want to bring it down. They want to have a story. They want to explain what happened. They want to point the blame. They need everything prepared. They need everything ready. They need the story of why this is happening, because you have to remember, they've been telling us that the economy is improving. It's getting better. We have very low unemployment. No one is applying for unemployment insurance. Everybody has a job. They're trying to make us believe that manufacturing, retail, all improving. And when this comes down, they're going to need a story to explain why this has happened. And this is why, at this point, everyone continually needs to prep for what is about to happen. Remember, it takes years to blow the bubbles up. It takes a second for it to come down. Think about it. In 2006, creating the bubbles. Everyone thought it was fine. Hundreds of millions of people, the government, the central bank, telling everyone it's fine. There was a few people who said something's wrong here. It's not right. It's going to crash. Of course, the hundreds of millions of people laughed at them. You're crazy. Conspiracy theorists, put your tinfoil hat on. Real estate never goes down. The market is at all-time new highs. You're a crazy person. Well, those crazy people, they made out pretty darn good. All those hundreds of millions of people, the government, the central banks, they had egg on their face because they were completely wrong. And it's easy to get sucked into that everything is fine, that it will never crash. But guess what? All it takes is a split second. And everything that we've been talking about for the last many years, it just disappears, and all you see is the crash. All you see is the collapse. And you say, I wish I prepared. I wish I got ready. I didn't believe. I listened to all those other people. Well, the few were right before. Guess what? I hate to say it, they're going to be right again. This economy is collapsing. Get prepared. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.